Ava always remembers the day her life changed forever. She was just 9 years old, sitting at the breakfast table when Claire's mother and Michael's father, with the most serious expressions on their faces, sat down across from her. Michael's father, his hands shaking slightly, took Ava's hand and said softly, "Ava, honey, I have something important to say." That was the day they received the news that their father had cancer. Ava was too young to fully understand the meaning of the word, but she felt the collapse of the world she knew. The following years passed in a space filled with the voices of doctors, visits from relatives, and encouragement from friends. Ava saw her father, once strong and full of life, gradually weakening day by day. Claire's mother tries to keep things normal, but Ava notices a difference. During the day, her mother smiled awkwardly, but at night, Ava often heard her mother sobbing in their small bedroom. Many times, Ava sat outside the door, wanting to come in and comfort her, but not knowing what to say. When her father Michael passed away, Ava was only 11 years old. The funeral was a mist filled with whispers and blackness. Claire's mother held her hand so tightly, it hurt so much that it made her uncomfortable, but Ava didn't mind. She just thought they would get through everything together. However, that hope quickly faded. Just a week after the funeral, Claire's mother sat down across from Ava again, this time just the two of them. "Ava, I talked to Mrs. Eleanor," Mom said, her eyes averted. "I think it would be better if you stayed with her for a while, just until I get everything sorted out." The feeling of being abandoned and lost rose in Ava's heart. The little girl didn't understand why her mother didn't want her by her side during the most painful moment for both of them. But Ava didn't cry, didn't protest. She just quietly packed her things and got in the car with Mrs. Eleanor, carrying a wordless sadness. Life at Eleanor's house was peaceful and safe, but for Ava, it was never truly home. Mrs. Eleanor, a woman with a kind but tough heart, does everything to make Ava feel loved. She cooked Ava's favorite meals, helped her with her homework, and told stories about Michael when he was a child. But no matter how hard she tried, Ava still felt the absence of her mother Claire, the person who was once the center of her world. Every time Ava asked when she could go home, the answer was always the same. "Just a little longer, Ava. Be patient." Ava doesn't understand why her mother doesn't want to be with her. Did her mother no longer love her? Or did her mother forget her presence in her attempt to heal herself? These thoughts kept haunting Ava, leaving a dull pain in her heart. Mrs. Eleanor, even though she did not say it out loud, clearly did not agree with Claire's decision. When my mother called, she was often busy in the kitchen, the sound of pots and pans colliding as a way to express her silent frustration. However, Ava still tried to keep her faith. The little girl hopes her mother just needs time to heal and will come back to pick her up soon. But as time passed, the disappointment grew. 6 months later, Claire finally appears, but not as the mother Ava knew. Claire is no longer the tired and miserable woman after her husband's death. Instead, she was full of life, carefully made up, and wearing a brand new dress. She took a strange man with her in the car and brought shocking news: she would remarry. This is a heartbreaking moment for Ava. How can an 11-year-old accept being left behind while his mother continues her new life? Think of Ava, a little girl who not only lost her father, but also felt the loss of her mother. The message from this story is clear. Every child deserves to be loved and prioritized, even in the most difficult times. Audiences can support Ava by recognizing that children should not be abandoned as adults seek to rebuild their lives. Ava needs to be recognized and loved, not become a forgotten part of adults' lives. When Ava returns to the home she once shared with her parents, the familiarity is completely gone. Instead, there is a feeling of strangeness. The strange man that mother introduced was Robert, and his 2 daughters, Emma and Lisa, made this house their place. Ava tried to greet them with a shy smile, but the cold looks from Emma and Lisa made her feel like an outsider. "This isn't my home anymore," she thought to herself as she looked around the room filled with unfamiliar objects. Emma and Lisa, even though they are the same age as Ava, do not hide their possessiveness. "He's our dad, not yours," Emma insisted as Ava tried to get to know him. Ava not only lost her father, but now feels like she's lost her mother as well. Claire, in her efforts to build a new life, seems blind to the injustice Ava has endured. Instead of trying to create cohesion in her new family, Claire focuses on pleasing Robert and his 2 daughters. Even more heartbreaking, Ava finds herself left out of every important decision. Not only was she forgotten in wedding photos, but she was also treated like an unwanted guest in her own home. The coldness and distance from her mother only deepened the pain in her heart. This is the moment where the audience needs to be on Ava's side. How can a child overcome the pain of losing her father when the only remaining mother does not care enough to protect her from injustice? The message was clear. Ava needed a voice, an advocate, and a real presence from her mother. The audience can suggest that Claire stop, acknowledge Ava's feelings, and remember that building a new family should not come with abandoning one's biological child. Ava needs to feel safe, and that can only come from a mother's unconditional love. The days following the wedding became a never-ending ordeal for Ava. Robert did not treat her rudely, but his indifference was like an invisible wall separating Ava from her new family. Every night, he hugged Emma and Lisa, gave them goodnight kisses, but always passed Ava as if she didn't exist. Claire, caught up in her efforts to please Robert, gradually forgets that Ava still needs her mother's attention. The first time Ava truly felt abandoned was at Christmas. While Emma and Lisa were given new iPads and designer clothes, Ava only received a sweater from a discount store. Claire doesn't notice the injustice and even tells Ava to stop being selfish. The most painful thing was when the only gift from the person who always loved her, a necklace from her grandmother Margaret, was intentionally destroyed by Emma without anyone blaming her. Ava realized that she was not only forgotten, but also treated like an extra person in her own family. This is the time when the audience needs to speak up. Ava doesn't deserve to be treated like that. Every child deserves to be loved and protected, regardless of circumstances. Claire needs to realize that love is not something that can be shared unfairly. Advice for Ava? Find a way to talk directly to your mother so she understands the pain and injustice she is enduring. As for the audience, please support Ava and emphasize that she is not alone in her journey to find justice and love. Things get more difficult when Claire announces that she is pregnant. The news was greeted with excitement by Robert, Emma, and Lisa. But for Ava, it was a blow to her already damaged self-esteem. She couldn't share their excitement because she knew this would only push her further away from her family's embrace. When the baby boy, Michael, was born, Ava was almost completely forgotten. Claire and Robert focus all their attention on the baby, while Emma and Lisa dominate Ava even more, considering themselves the most important people in the family. The climax was when Claire announced that Ava had to give up her bedroom to Michael and move in with Emma and Lisa. This suggestion is not only unfair, but also disrupts the only space in which Ava feels safe. When Ava speaks out against her, Claire responds with anger, accusing her of being selfish and ungrateful. This accusation added fuel to Ava's pain, making her feel completely isolated. The audience needs to support Ava in this moment. She is not only trying to keep some private space, but also protect her self-esteem. Ava deserves to be heard and respected. Advise Ava to seek help from her grandmother Margaret, the only person who is always on her side, to find a way to escape this injustice and build a more equitable life. Ava couldn't take it anymore. After being forced to move out of her room, she decided to do something she had never dared to do. She called her grandmother Margaret, who had always been her only emotional support. When Margaret heard Ava's choked voice over the phone, she did not hesitate. "You deserve to live in a place where you are loved," she said. Just a few hours later, her car appeared in front of Ava's house. Claire and Robert just watched from the window as Ava walked out with her backpack on her shoulder. No apology, no goodbye hug. This didn't surprise Ava. She knew they were ready to cut her out of their lives to focus entirely on the perfect family they had created. But for Margaret, Ava is not only an important part of the family, but also an inspiration for courage and resilience. Life at Margaret's house was a comforting change. Ava gets to live in a space where she is not judged or compared. This is the beginning of the freedom that Ava has always craved. The audience will definitely support Ava's strong decision, because sometimes giving up is the first step to finding your true value. Ava should continue to keep the faith and build a worthy life with support from her loving grandmother. At Margaret's house, Ava gradually felt the peace she had never felt before. Quiet mornings with warm breakfasts, stories about her father's childhood, and Margaret's never-ending encouragement became part of Ava's journey to recovery. Without mocking laughter or cold eyes, Ava felt loved unconditionally. One day, Margaret sat down next to Ava and said in a serious but warm voice, "Ava, I talked to your mother. I'm willing to adopt you if you want." Ava was surprised, tears streaming down her cheeks. This was the first time she felt like someone was truly on her side, ready to protect and love her. "I want that," Ava replied, filled with hope. The legal process happened quickly, and Ava officially became Margaret's adopted child. Not only did this provide stability for Ava, but it was also a statement that she deserved a life filled with love and care. This is a major turning point in Ava's journey to rediscovering her self-worth. Something the audience will feel proud of and strongly support. Ava can now focus on building her future with unconditional support from her loving grandmother. Life under Margaret's protection gives Ava a solid foundation to pursue her dream. With her support, Ava threw herself into her studies with strong determination. The days sitting at the kitchen table, Mrs. Margaret making a hot cup of tea and quietly helping Ava research her college application, became unforgettable moments. When the acceptance letter from State University arrived, Ava burst into tears of joy, and Margaret hugged her tightly, proud of her granddaughter's journey. Tuition fees are always a concern, but Margaret has been preparing for them for a long time. "I've been saving since your father was alive," she said, sliding a check across the table. Ava couldn't believe her eyes. This is not just financial support, but a profound expression of Margaret's love and trust for her. With a portion of Margaret's scholarship and savings, Ava knew she was not only pursuing knowledge, but also realizing a dream that she and her father had hoped for. Audiences will feel Ava's deep gratitude, along with her determination to live up to her great-grandmother's beliefs that changed her life. Ava's college years were her formative years, where she gradually found herself and built her future. Even though she was busy with her studies, she never forgot to call Margaret every Sunday, sharing stories about lessons, friends, and new dreams. "You make me proud every day," Margaret always said, her voice filled with encouragement. When Margaret called to inform her about her health condition, Ava did not hesitate and immediately made plans to visit her every week. The long car rides did not discourage her, because she knew she needed to be with the person who had sacrificed so much for her. Every moment with her, from looking at old photo albums together to talking about stories from the past, becomes more precious than ever. Ava's graduation day approaches, but Margaret is not healthy enough to attend. However, she patiently watched the ceremony via live stream from the hospital. Ava walked on stage, received her diploma, and looked straight into the camera, sending her a kiss of thanks. "I did it, Grandma," Ava whispered. Margaret's passing then left a big void in Ava's life, but she knew she had to keep going. By living true to the values she taught, Ava turned loss into motivation to build a life to be proud of, not only for herself but also for Margaret, who always believed that Ava would create wonder. After Margaret's funeral, Ava realizes that the legacy she leaves behind is not just a house or savings, but also love and steadfastness. Holding the will in her hands, she couldn't help but feel emotional knowing that her grandmother had left everything to her. The house, where they shared countless memories and enough savings for Ava to start her life, live independently. However, the sudden appearance of Ava's mother and her new family at the funeral confused her. Faces that were once cold, even cruel, now appear in painful moments. When her mother suggests a family dinner to make up, Ava feels deep hesitation. But she agreed, somewhat hoping for a new beginning. Dinner at her old house was nothing more than a calculated performance. The sweet words and fake gestures of her mother and stepsisters acted as a mask to hide her true intentions. When they mentioned emergency repairs to the house at a cost of $10,000, Ava understood that their real intention was just to take advantage of her again. But Ava is no longer the easily manipulated girl she once was. She calmly replied, "No. and revealed that she had heard their real conversation over the phone. Silence filled the room as the truth was revealed. In that moment, Ava decided that she would not let them drag her down again. Leaving the house with dignity and confidence, she knew she had chosen the right path, a path that led to true freedom and independence.